Well, they were just children when the state of Washington failed to protect them from horrific abuse happening at a boys' ranch in Pend Oreille County. Just weeks ago, the state agreed to pay nearly $17 million to a dozen of those victims of beatings, torture, and rape. One of them reached out to us, wanting to tell his story. Robin Nance spoke with the person who turned the tables on J. Bardee Ranch.
The scenery is picturesque, the population sparse. Pend Oreille County boasts of forests, lakes, and rivers, an adventurer's paradise. It was here, near Ione, that the J. Bardee Ranch served as a group home for young kids in the 1970s and 80s.
When I heard I was going to this boys' ranch, I'm thinking, right on, cattle, horses, I'm going to learn to be a cowboy.
But this ranch held a dark secret. And within 24 hours of being placed at J. Bardee Ranch, John Seckar had his first experiences with the horrors happening there.
Molestation, just sick and heinous things that shouldn't happen to children.
John was sent to the ranch when he was 12 years old. By that time, he had been in numerous foster homes and group homes since he was 9 years old. His mother severely abused him. Then the abuse continued in nearly every foster home and group home he was placed. John's last placement was J. Bardee Ranch.
Because I don't want to start crying and put me in that home as a child that had already been abused enough. That was gross. If you look in the dictionary under gross negligence, that should be whoever signed those papers to send me there.
He spent about 3 years at the ranch. It closed in 1984 and is now private property. While time has slowly erased what the ranch once was, the memories are still an open wound for John.
And I still can't believe the state, as my parents did the things they did to me.
Who do you hold responsible?
The state. There's no excuse.
The state is now paying for it thanks to attorney Daryl Cochran, who has made it his mission to seek justice for men like John. Cochran calls J. Bardee Ranch uniquely horrible.
Ultimately, what they discovered was that children were being horrifically sexually abused. They were being neglected. They were being warehoused by DSHS, and the DSHS administrators in Spokane were running interference in cahoots, if you will, with the operators of the J. Bardee Ranch.
Cochran says the investigation found that DSHS officials were likely receiving money or benefits for their work to keep the ranch open. But the ranch closed because 15-year-old John Seckar ran, even though he saw what happened to other boys who ran and told about what was happening to them there.
And so for the kids, it was this terrifying catch-22. Do I run away from this and face getting beaten savagely because I left and tried to tell, or do I stay and endure this horror?
John couldn't take the horror anymore. He ran for miles and found a payphone in Ione.
I was scared they weren't going to do anything because there were cops that would come to the ranch. And the underlying knowledge was the cop was not good either.
He finally got to someone who believed him and cared. When the ranch was shut down, those boys were shuttled off to other places. For John, the state tried to send him to another boys' ranch.
When I said I wouldn't go there, the caseworker brought me back into Spokane, literally said, well, we have no place for you, and dropped me off on a street corner in Spokane. This is my case manager. Didn't find another respite home, didn't find anything else for me. So I decided that was enough, and I hitchhiked to California.
He lived on the streets and did whatever he could to survive. He was in and out of jail, in and out of addiction for years, byproducts of what he and the other boys endured under the care of the state of Washington.
They had rights, just general rights as children, to be protected by those that are supposed to protect them and guide them and put them in homes. These kids were all already had abuse happen to them. They already had negative things or felt unwanted and unloved, and to put them in an environment like that was just, there's no amount of money that makes up for it. There's none. There's just none.
I'm Robin Nance, 4 News Now.
Now, when John does finally get his settlement money, he plans to buy his first house and give back to the fellowship that has helped him in his recovery. John's attorney is working on lawsuits against a number of other group homes across the state and will continue to represent victims of J. Bardee Ranch if he can find them.